we'll look beyond, because with PMax, it's not just negative keywords that we need to be interested in if we're looking at being more efficient and reducing waste. So in your experience beyond keywords, what would you say are the other big sources of waste when it comes to PMax campaign setups?
Yeah, good question. So I think probably the biggest one is I guess a bit of a mismatch between the style of advertiser and Performance Max as a channel, right? So, let's say you're like a fairly difficult to understand B2B services company, right? And it's one of those where, like, if you look at the homepage and you don't immediately understand what it is,
Yeah.
feeding that to an AI and thinking that it's going to go well it probably won't, right? So I think that might be the biggest source of waste, is that Performance Max is hailed as like incredibly versatile and flexible and one size fits all, or can cater to every use case type of a campaign, and that's probably not true. And there are definitely, it outperforms where it has the right structured data and the right structured inputs and a lot of contextual information, right? Which is why it does better as kind of the evolution of, for example, smart shopping and e-commerce, for example, with a product feed. So if you remove a lot of those inputs and you give it quite vague inputs, it's not going to do. It's going to create a lot of waste, and I definitely have seen that. So, first of all, anything that's lead gen, and then probably within lead gen, anything that's not easily understandable lead gen like B2B will produce a lot of waste. So I think that's probably the biggest one, is people kind of sticking Performance Max in an account where it probably doesn't belong there. That's one. And then I guess more micro than that might be things. I mean, we could talk about placements. Like there's a lot going on there. We can, I think geographies is another one to look at, right? I think I've seen advertisers be just very, I guess, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what it is, if it's advertisers that are worried about losing out on conversions or want full coverage. But, for example, you don't have to target all of the United States, right? The United States is a big country. You need a very, very, very large budget to cover all of the United States.
It's almost like each individual state should be treated as its own country. Like,
yeah, or you could start with a better starter pack. Maybe Alaska can be left out, right? Maybe you can just start with the East Coast, and that would already be plenty. And maybe you could just start with the top 20 cities, and that would be more appropriate. And so, yeah, I think it's just one of these funny things where you probably don't need to cover as big in terms of like geographical regions. I'd say there's definitely some waste there, because you can then see it retroactively, like whether it's postcode or city level or region level, you can find all sorts of inefficiencies later down the road. So like starting with a better starter pack in terms of geography, and really asking yourself, for the budget that I have set out, like what is the best starter pack? We can always go expand later, but give yourself the best chance within the right kind of guardrails and constraints.
Does PMax do that thing where if you opt out of targeting a specific country,
I believe
then you need to do that thing where it says, no, I want to
want them to be physically there.
Yes,
I believe so. Yes, yeah. I believe PMax has locations of interest. I could be wrong, but last I looked, I think I saw that.
Yeah, so it's just to be mindful of. Yeah, some people might think that they're excluding a certain country, and they're not. They're still getting lots of traffic of people who've shown an interest in a particular region.
So that would be another category of waste for sure. And I mean, Thomas Sackel, I was actually on a webinar, a Lunio webinar with him on this, and there's definitely a whole slew of settings that are typically turned on by default that maybe you wouldn't want to, right? Like if you have final URL expansion on, and you have automated assets on, and if you and locations of interest on, and you like multiply those, you can get into some weird corners of, where,
Yeah.
and you have content suitability.
Mm.
All of a sudden you're in somewhat dodgy sites with a somewhat dodgy message,
Yeah.
in a person that's not physically in the location you want them to
Yeah.
be. You definitely want to have a decent set of constraints and guardrails.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Paid Media Lab. If you found it useful, you can get the full-length episode on the Lunio YouTube channel, where you can also subscribe to catch all our latest releases. And if you want free tools, reports, and guides to help you uplift the efficiency of your PPC campaigns, head to lunio.ai and click on the Resources tab in the nav bar. See you in the next one.